All right. How's it going out there, Reason users? What I've got here today is a Combinator patch that I created. It's a 808, which has a tuned kick playing along with the 808. Um, and of course, I've got a lot of things involved to get them to play well with each other and make it all cohesive. Um, and it's very flexible as well. And I'm going to go ahead and go through it step by step. But this is the patch complete right now. As you can see, it's all stock, stock REs. Let me go ahead and play that for you. All right, so there you have it. It's a pretty solid patch as far as an 808 goes. It has good attack and just good body to it. Nice decay, good saturation. So it's hits some of those low mids. Um, but let's go right ahead and dive right into it. All right. So first thing we're gonna want to do is create ourselves a combinator and just go over here to our browser and pull that over. I'm going to lay it out right next to the old one, so that way I can reference it. I don't have all the settings memorized, unfortunately, um, but we'll get through it. Inside this combinator, we want to go ahead and create ourselves our line mixer. Pull that inside there. Um, and the line mixer, we're gonna want to have our kick and our 808 going into that. Go into our instruments. um, okay, that's where our kick's going to come from, the NNXT. Go ahead and reset that device, and now we can go ahead and I use the Thor for my 808. Um, it sounds great. That it's actually a stock patch. I minor tweaks to it in this Combinator patch, but it's it does the job pretty well. Of course, if you have another RE or another, you could do another NNXT and load up a sample that you have. You could do the same thing. But this is just what I've chosen to do. It works well for me. I like it. So in here, let's go ahead and percussion, bass drums, 808 bass drum. So once we load that up, we go into our programmer, and this is it now. And that's just the 808. I've got nothing loaded into the sampler right now. And you've got a lot of attack. You hear that click, which, if that's what you like, it's good. But when you layer it with another kick, where you're gonna get a lot of attack and a lot of punch, that much of an attack on this amp envelope is gonna conflict, usually with the attack on the kick. Of course, and we will put some sidechain on this as well later on, but I still find that adding a little bit of a slope to that attack. I like to bring the attack to. Let's see what I did on the other patch here. Looks like we did 25.1, and I think that's what I've got on here. Yep. All right, and I also adjusted the filter envelope slightly as well. bringing the attack up to 122. So let's go ahead and bring that up to 122. Oh, thereabouts. Let's see. Hit the shift. Whoops. 122. All right. So there, that is honestly all that I do to the initial patch for this 808. And this is what it sounds like. And you can tell, you know, that attack is now gone. It still has some punch to it, a little thud, but that's going to be taken over by the kick later on. All right, now that we've got our foundation for our 808 sound, we can go ahead and move on and add the kick layer into our NNXT. And this kick, it's a stock kick within the Kong folder, BD1 Circus PB, and we'll go ahead and load that in. And by default, this is going to make the root note C3. Now, by all means, it doesn't mean that that's the actual tone of that kick. So what we want to do to make it gel with our 808 is we want to make sure that root note is in the right place. And a really neat way that we can do that within Reason 9 is we can actually load that same sample in to a note lane and double click on that and go into our pitch edit, which it already jumped to that for us. The line you see here is the drift within the note. The blue square or rectangle, of course, is the actual average, what Reason dictates as the actual note. And we can see that that's not perfect either. But if we go ahead and click on the correct, it'll you know, shift it to the closest note. And here we can see it shifted to D sharp, and it's D sharp 1. Now that doesn't mean you have to make the root note D sharp 1. You can make it different octaves. Of course, you want to make it D sharp, but you can go up to, you know, 2, 3. I think for the sake of my Combinator patch, it was actually I make the root note C3, or I mean not C3, but D sharp 3, and it just sounded good to me with the actual tone of the 808. But of course, this is all very flexible in regards to what you can do with the actual sound to you know, suit your needs. Let's go ahead and now we can go ahead and delete this here, because now we already know what it is. So we don't need that anymore. Go ahead and close the editor and delete that. You know, and I don't even need this audio track anymore, so we'll go ahead and get rid of that as well. All right, so now we'll get back to our rack, and now we can see where we're at here with our root note. And to change the root note on the programmer, it's, you know, down at the, you know, bottom left corner of the little programmer screen. We just want to shift that up a few steps, and now we can see that we've changed that root note to D sharp 3. And if we look back at our original one, we can see that's the same there as well. So now what we have is the very basics, or the basis, I should say, of our tuned 808 kick. And that's what we're left with so far. Still very raw. You know, we need to tame it. It's just got too much going on. But we'll we'll go ahead and get into that next. uh, One important thing that I missed before moving on um, is within the N and XT with that kick, we want to turn the polyphony, the key poly, how they have it labeled on the actual N and XT. We want to have that down to 1. So that way it's only going to play one note. You can't you can't play more than one note at a time. Now I didn't mention it, but within the Thor preset, this is already there. Your polyphony's down to 1, and you have mono retrigger, which means every time you play a different note, it's going to retrigger with no overlap. And that's what you want with an 808. Otherwise, the harmonics between the decays of the kicks are gonna just really just take over and just destroy your your low end. But anyways, so now that we have all that corrected, we can now actually shape our kick and our 808 independently, making sure that they sound nice and tight, and shape them so that they work better together. And the first thing we're going to want to do is put an EQ on our kick sample. So go over to our effects and M class EQ. Go ahead and drop that in, and right away we'll just hit the 30 hertz cut, and we'll even take it further than that, because our low end is going to be coming from our 808 from the Thor. So really, this kick sample is really just going to be there for that punch, that impact, that nice attack. So we can go ahead and hit our low shelf, throw the frequency all the way down, throw the gain all the way down, and you can play with the Q a little bit. The M class equalizer is not the the best for getting really good curves in regards to low and high pass filtering, but for the sake of this patch, I wanted to keep it stock. I'll probably make another patch later on with some of my other third-party REs, just to fine-tune it even more. But just for the sake of this, I wanted to keep it stock. But we'll move on. So we've got that little bit of a slope. Let's see what we did in the original one. Gain all the way down. We actually brought the Q all the way up, I guess, give us a little bit more impact. Actually, that is pretty nice, because that'll give us a lot more punch with the kick, and leaving a lot of the real low end out. And it looks like I also did a high shelf, frequency up, gain down. Where did I pull it? Okay, we got the Q up a little bit. Let's see where I put it exactly. 0.74. Let's go ahead. 0.74, and there we go. Frequency down all the way. So, and this is all stuff that can be tweaked, but that's what I've done so far. So now let's add just a light compression on that. M class compressor, bring that in right underneath, and let me just copy the settings. We've got a real low ratio. We don't want a whole lot. It's just taming the kick a little bit. We're gonna have some more compression later on as well, so we don't want to go too much. Looks like we got 171. Let's see what we got. There we go. And threshold is down 28.6. Okay. And our attack and release. Got the release down. Looks like all the way. And our attack at 24. So basically this is barely doing anything. It's just taming it just a little bit. Go ahead and listen to it now. Now let's go ahead and let's turn the actual 808 down a little bit on our mixer, because I feel like that's just, you know, the low end is just taking over a little bit. Let's see what we have on our original. I think it's down to 80. Yep. Keep the kick at 100. All right. Sounds a little bit better already. Okay. So, we've now kind of tamed our kick. Now let's listen to the kick by itself real quick. Definitely sounds nice and punchy. I'm digging it. All right. So, next what we'll do is you know, give our 808 a little bit more shape, and some more edge too. And we do this by adding some saturation, distortion, you know, whatever degree of you know you want to take it. Some saturation is good, but if you want to go real heavy distortion, that is also a really good technique that I like to use too. And the beauty with this Combinator patch is, you know, we use the Scream 4 unit, and it's actually really kind of neat because when you load this in, you can basically just change the you know, your preset on your Scream 4, and it essentially turns your 808 into a completely different patch every time. And there's so many different varieties of distortion and saturation that it can provide. It's almost limitless. It's a beautiful thing, which is why this is like a really great, I think, starting point for anybody who wants to put an 808 in their track. You know, you load this Combinator in, and you can pretty much take it wherever you need to fit your track, which is you know, basically why I, you know, created it and find it very useful. So let's go ahead and load that in. We've got Scream 4. Load that down right there. And you know, I'm a budding sound designer. You know, I'm not like a great synthesist and things like that, but I'm learning. And I do, you know, rely a lot on presets, and I tweak from there. And this Combinator doesn't, you know, really stray far from that. You know, I'm really not starting from scratch. I'm always starting with something. And with this, we can actually go into our presets, and I think it's instrument fidelity. No, let me go back. Instrument tweaks, yes. Bass melt. Okay, that's the preset that I really like. It's not very heavy distortion. It's more of a saturation. This is what it sounds like. Okay, now we turn it off. lot more body, a lot more like low mid edge to it, and you know you can. This is just going through different presets, and you can see it really is pretty neat how you can just change the the complete tone and or the vibe of your 808 just by flipping through the presets of the Scream. And then of course you can tweak to your heart's content as well in any of the parameters that are available on the Scream. Okay, so after we get the bass melt in there, and this is compression. I'm not adding an extra compressor. What I'm going to do after this is just add the sidechain. This is going to just help that kick cut through a little bit more when the two sounds are playing together. It's a very common technique. Let's go ahead and bring in our, let's see, M-class compressor, and if we hold shift, oh sorry about that, hold shift when we bring it in, it won't connect right away. Oh, wait a minute, it did. Well, that's fine. But what we need to do now is get the kick to trigger the sidechain in that compressor so that it dips when the two are hitting together. Now, the way that I do it for this particular Combinator patch is I actually use the aux send within the line mixer in the Combinator, believe it or not. So what we do is we'll just go ahead and bring that send down. Whoops. And connect that into the sidechain input. And go ahead and flip our rack back around. Now, our kick now, we want to turn the aux up on that kick. I just go ahead and crank it all the way up. That way, you're pretty much getting the full signal going out that aux, so that full signal is hitting that compressor's side chain. So you're getting a stronger signal for that compression. Of course, you can turn it down. You also have your input gain, your threshold. You got everything you can, to tweak it to your heart's content. But what I went ahead and did was I brought the threshold down 20.7. And looks like the ratio I kept at 406. Yep. Okay. And the attack and release is where I made some more changes. Looks like I brought the attack all the way down, which is generally what you're going to want when you do a side chain, especially when you have that kick coming in. That's where you want your thump, your attack coming from. So this helps, that conflict between, the attack from the 808 and the kick. And our release, we drop down a little bit, 257. Okay. So now when we go ahead and play this, we should see our compression hit, and that is directly from that kick. It's not actually compressing, um, from the signal from the 808. It's actually compressing from that signal provided by the kick, so that that kick can actually stand out um, over that bass when they hit at the same time. Okay. So now we've come a long way. We've got pretty much our sound, um, but what we need to do next, in the step to actually get everything to sound really cohesive, is to put some processing on the master out of this line mixer. We've done processing to each individual you know part of the patch, the kick and the 808. Um, but now we're going to do some processing to the blended mix together, and this is essentially just going to glue the sounds together, and make it more of a cohesive patch. And um, once again, you can see I've just used um, stock REs here. We start off with the equalizer, and go ahead and pull the EQ down. Okay, and then we go from the EQ to our stereo imager. Okay, and then from our stereo imager we do some compression and a maximizer. Now the compression and maximizer are really going to be the glue. Um, the EQ in stereo imager certainly do help, um, and we'll show you that here in a second. All right. So once again, we're going to do the low cut and a high shelf. This is just kind of take out the unnecessary highs within the overall patch. Cut the gain down, put the Q up. Okay, and that's as far as we took it on that original patch. Stereo imager, of course, we want our lowest frequencies to be in mono, so it doesn't mess with phase and things like that. The crossover frequency, it looks like I dropped that down to about 470. Okay, and then I went wide with the top portion. There's some higher frequency harmonics within this 808, and by making that top end more wide, it just makes the 808 sound bigger. Okay, so next we go down to our compressor. Sorry about that, and bring our threshold down a little bit. Looks like a 21.3. Okay, and looks like once again we left our ratio, just dropped it a little bit, 3.82. Okay, and then with this we did an adapt release, and it looks like we kept the attack at 50. And that's just kind of a slow attack, so it's not really it's not really crushing that that attack at the beginning of the 808, and it kind of helps just kind of glue the two sounds together. That, along with the maximizer, which I don't push very hard. What I do have on here though is I do make the release slow, which helps to glue it glue the sound better. And I have the soft clip on, and I have that amount down to about 60. All right, and that is it. That is the 808. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and provide a link to the actual Combinator patch, so it'll be available for anyone. But I just decided to show a video so people could actually see the process as well. Um, and if you have any improvements to this, um, or any variations that you want to share, I would love it if you shared your version of it within the comments of this post, or make a post of your own. Um, it would be great. I would love to see what y'all make with the basics and the foundation that I've provided. I know it can go a lot more advanced than this, but this is certainly a good starting point for a good solid 808. Really appreciate you taking the time to check out the video, and just hit like, comment, share. I don't know. I'll see you next time. Peace.